The text came at 2 a.m. Glowing on my phone like a dare. I need a favor. One night. $10. 000. Be my fiancé. My heart stopped. Not because of the money, but because it was from Ethan Caldwell, the man whose name alone could open doors or burn bridges in this city. I was just a barista, 30 years old, drowning in student loans and a life that felt like it was slipping through my fingers. How did I end up on his radar? I sat up in my cramped apartment, the radiator hissing like it was mocking me. Ethan was a legend, a 40-year-old tech mogul whose face graced Forbes covers and whose parties were whispered about like modern-day Gatsby affairs. We'd met exactly once, 3 weeks ago, when he'd come into my coffee shop, ordered a black coffee, and left a $100 tip with a smile that made my knees weak. He'd asked my name. Lillian scribbled his number on a napkin, saying, "In case you ever need a change of scenery." I thought it was a flirtatious joke, not a prelude to this. The next morning, I met him at a sleek downtown office, all glass and steel, where he laid out the deal. "One night," he said, leaning back in his chair, his dark eyes locking onto mine. "You pose as my fiancé at a dinner with some complicated people. No strings, no follow-up. Just play the part, and the money's yours." His voice was smooth, but there was an edge to it, like he was holding something back. I asked, "Why me? A nobody?" He smirked. "Because you're real, Lila. You don't fake charm. You've got it." I should have walked away. The deal screamed trouble, too much money for too little explanation. But $10, 000 could clear my debts, maybe even let me breathe for the first time in years. So I said yes, ignoring the knot in my stomach. Ethan handed me a credit card and an address for a dress shop. "Pick something stunning," he said. "You'll need to own the room." The dress shop was a world I didn't belong in. Racks of silk and sequins, saleswomen who looked like they'd never tasted instant ramen. I chose a deep red gown that hugged my curves and made me feel like someone else, someone who could pull this off. Ethan's driver picked me up at 7 p.m., and as we sped toward a mansion on the city's outskirts, I rehearsed the backstory he'd given me. We'd met 6 months ago, fallen hard, engaged last month. Simple, believable. But why did it feel like I was walking into a trap? The mansion was a fortress of wealth, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and a dining room that could seat a small army. Ethan greeted me at the door, his black suit pristine, his hand warm as it grazed mine. "You look perfect," he whispered, but his eyes darted to the room, scanning for something or someone. The guests were a mix of power players, CEOs, investors, and a few faces I recognized from tabloids. I played my part, smiling, laughing at Ethan's jokes, letting his arm rest around my waist. But the air felt heavy, like everyone was waiting for something to break. Then she walked in, a woman in a sleek black gown, her sharp cheekbones and icy blue eyes cutting through the room like a blade. She was maybe 35, her presence commanding, her smile tight. Ethan's grip on my hand tightened for a split second before he introduced her. "Lila, this is Vanessa, my business associate." Her handshake was cold, her gaze dissecting me. I felt like prey. Dinner began, and I kept up the act, touching Ethan's arm, sharing glances, spinning the lie of our love story. But Vanessa's eyes never left us. She asked pointed questions. "How did you two meet? What's the proposal story?" I answered smoothly, but her smile grew sharper, like she knew something I didn't. The other guests watched, their conversations faltering. Ethan's charm never wavered, but I saw the tension in his jaw, the way his fingers tapped his wine glass. Halfway through the main course, a man stood UPA tall, gray-haired figure in his 50s, his face flushed with something darker than wine. "Enough," he said, his voice low but carrying. The room went silent. He stared at Ethan, then at me, his eyes burning with betrayal. "You think you can parade this charade in front of us?" he said. "Vanessa, tell them." Vanessa stood. Her movements deliberate. Her voice like ice. Ethan's lying, she said. There's no engagement. This woman's a stranger. Gasps rippled through the room. My heart pounded. But Ethan's hand squeezed mine under the table, urging me to stay calm. Vanessa, he said, his tone dangerously calm. You're mistaken. Am I? She shot back, tossing a folder onto the table. Papers spilled out photos. Documents. Emails. You hired her, Ethan. For tonight. To fool us all. The room froze. Every eye on me. The nobody in the red dress. I wanted to run, but Ethan's grip anchored me. He stood, his voice steady but laced with fury. You want the truth, he said. Let's talk about the real lies here, starting with you and your husband. The gray-haired man flinched. Vanessa's composure cracked, just for a second. And I realized I wasn't just a pawn in Ethan's game, I was a weapon. But whose side was I really on? The dining room was a battlefield. The silence so thick it felt like it could choke me. Ethan's words hung in the air, accusing Vanessa and the gray-haired man, her husband. I now realized off their own lies. My pulse raced as I sat there, the red dress suddenly feeling like a spotlight. I wasn't just pretending anymore. I was caught in something raw, something dangerous. Vanessa's eyes narrowed, her voice slicing through the tension. Don't deflect, Ethan, she said, pointing at the scattered papers on the table. These prove you paid her to be here. You're the one playing games. She turned to me, her gaze piercing. Lila, is it? Tell the truth. How much did he offer you? I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. The room's eyes were on me, curious, judgmental, waiting for me to crack. Ethan's hand was still on mine, steady but insistent, like a silent command to stick to the script. But the script was unraveling. I glanced at the paper screenshots of bank transfers, a contract with my name, even a photo of me entering the dress shop. They'd been watching me. My stomach twisted. I started, my voice shaky. Ethan leaned closer, his breath warm against my ear. Stay with me, Lila, he whispered. We're not the ones who should be scared. His confidence was maddening, but it grounded me. I took a breath, meeting Vanessa's stare. I'm his fiancée, I said, forcing steel into my voice. I don't know what you're talking about. A murmur rippled through the guests. Vanessa's husband, his name, I learned, was Richard. Slammed his fist on the table, making the wine glasses tremble. Enough of this, he roared. Ethan, you think you can humiliate us? After everything. His face was red, veins bulging, but there was pain in his eyes, not just anger. Ethan stood taller, his voice calm but lethal. Humiliate you? Richard, you and Vanessa have been playing your own game for years. Don't act like victims now. He turned to the room, addressing the stunned guests. You all know the rumors about their perfect marriage. Let's just say it's built on more than love. The room gasped. Vanessa's face paled, but she recovered quickly, stepping forward. You're desperate, Ethan, she said. This is about revenge, isn't it? Because I chose Richard over you. My heart skipped. So that was Ida love triangle. Old wounds. And me stuck in the middle. I felt like a fool for not seeing it sooner. Ethan laughed, but it was bitter. You think this is about you? Vanessa, you're not that important. He picked up one of the papers from the table, holding it up. This is about the deal you and Richard tried to sabotage. The merger I've been working on for 2 years. You thought you could expose me tonight, ruin my credibility. But you didn't count on Lila. All eyes turned to me again. I wanted to disappear, but I kept my chin up, playing the part. Ethan's hand found mine again, and I squeezed back, not sure if it was for him or for me. Lila's not just my fiancée, he said, his voice softening, almost convincing. She's the one who reminded me what's worth fighting for. The lie was so smooth. I almost believed it myself. But Vanessa wasn't done. She stepped closer, her voice low and venomous. "You're good, Lila, but you're in over your head. Walk away now, or you'll regret it." Her threat was personal, like she knew something about mesomething I didn't even know. Before I could respond, Richard spoke again, his voice quieter now. Broken. "Ethan, why drag her into this? If you want to destroy us, just do it. Leave the girl out of it." There was something human in his plea, something that made me question everything. Was Ethan the hero here, or the villain? Dinner resumed, but the mood was shattered. Guests whispered, glancing at us like we were a live soap opera. I leaned toward Ethan, whispering, "You need to tell me what's going on. Now." He nodded, his face tight. "After this, I'll explain everything. Just hold on." As dessert was served, I noticed Vanessa and Richard exchanging looks, furtive, calculating. They weren't done either. I felt like a chess piece, moved by forces I couldn't see. But something in me was shifting. I wasn't just Lila the barista anymore. I was in the game now, and I wanted answers. The night wasn't over, and neither was the fight. The dessert plates were cleared, but the tension in the dining room lingered like smoke. I sat beside Ethan, my heart still racing from Vanessa's threat and Richard's raw plea. The guests tried to resume their small talk, but their eyes kept darting to us, waiting for the next explosion. I felt exposed, like a fraud in a red dress. But Ethan's steady presence kept me anchored for now. As coffee was served, Ethan leaned in, his voice low. "We need to talk. Alone." I nodded, desperate for answers. He excused us from the table, guiding me through a side door into a dimly lit library, all mahogany and leather-bound books. The door clicked shut, and for the first time that night, it was just us. "Lila," he started, pacing, "I owe you the truth." His confident facade was cracking, revealing a man under pressure. "Vanessa and Richard are trying to tank a merger I've staked everything on. They've got influence, connections, and a grudge that goes back years." He stopped, running a hand through his hair. "They think exposing our engagement will make me look unstable, untrustworthy. It's a power play." I crossed my arms, my voice sharp. "And you thought dragging me into this was a good idea? Why not just tell me from the start?" His eyes met mine, and for a moment, he looked almost vulnerable. "Because I needed someone they wouldn't expect. Someone real. You're not part of their world, Lila. That's why you're perfect." His words hit me hard, not because they flattered me, but because they confirmed I was a tool, not a partner. Perfect for what? I snapped. To be humiliated in front of a room full of strangers. "Vanessa's got proof. Ethan, they know I'm a fake." He stepped closer, his voice urgent. "They think they've got me cornered, but they don't. Those papers, half of them are forged. Vanessa's playing dirty, but I've got dirt on them too." He pulled out his phone, showing me an email cryptic exchange between Vanessa and an unknown contact about redirecting funds from the merger. "This could ruin them," he said, "but I need you to keep playing along. One more hour, Lila. Then you're free, and the money's yours." I wanted to walk away, to tell him to fight his own battles. But something in his eyes, desperation, maybe even trust, made me hesitate. And then there was the money. $10. 000 could change my life. 1 hour, I said. But no more lies. We returned to the dining room, where Vanessa and Richard were whispering, their heads bent together. The other guests were leaving, murmuring goodbyes, but the air still crackled with unfinished business. Vanessa stood as we approached, her smile venomous. "Lila, darling," she said, "you're still here. Brave." I forced a smile, channeling every ounce of confidence I didn't feel. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Ethan's hand brushed mine, a silent thank you. But Richard wasn't playing along. He stood, his voice shaking. "Ethan, This ends tonight. Tell the truth, or I will. Ethan didn't flinch. The truth. Richard. Like how you and Vanessa have been skimming from the merger funds. Or how your perfect marriage is a front for your own deals. The room went still again. Vanessa's face froze, her eyes darting to Richard, who looked like he'd been slapped. You're bluffing, Vanessa said, but her voice wavered. Ethan pulled out his phone, holding it up like a weapon. Am I? I've got proof, and I'm not afraid to use it. The guests who hadn't left yet were riveted, their phones discreetly recording. This wasn't just a dinner, Anna Maria, it was a spectacle. Richard sank into his chair, his face ashen. Vanessa, though, wasn't done. She turned to me, her voice low and cutting. You're nothing to him, Lila. Just a hired hand. When this is over, he'll toss you aside. Her words stung, but I held her gaze. Maybe, I said, but I'm not the one hiding secrets from my husband. Her eyes widened, just for a moment, before she recovered. You'll regret this, she hissed. But I was done being scared. I leaned closer, my voice steady. Try me. The night was far from over, but I was no longer just a bystander. I was in the fight, and I wasn't backing down. The dining room felt like a pressure cooker, every word a spark that could ignite the whole place. My jab at Vanessa had landed, and for a split second, I saw fear in her eyes, fear that I, the nobody barista, might know more than I should. Ethan's hand rested lightly on my back, a quiet signal to keep going. But my heart was pounding so hard I could barely think. I was in too deep, and the only way out was through. Vanessa recovered quickly, her smile a mask of control. You're bold, Lila, she said, her voice dripping with condescension. But boldness won't save you when this falls apart. She turned to the remaining guests, her tone shifting to one of wounded innocence. I'm sorry you all had to witness this deception. Ethan's desperate to save face, but the truth always comes out. The guests murmured, some nodding, others looking skeptical. Ethan stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. The truth, he said, his eyes locked on Vanessa. Let's talk about the offshore accounts you and Richard have been funneling money into. Or should I call my lawyer now? He held up his phone again, and I saw Richard flinch, his hands gripping the table. Vanessa laughed, but it was hollow. You're grasping, Ethan. No one's going to believe your lies. But the room wasn't so sure. A woman in a pearl necklace leaned toward her husband, whispering. A man in a tux checked his phone, probably searching for gossip. The tide was turning, and Vanessa knew it. Richard stood again, his voice hoarse. This isn't about money, he said, looking at Ethan with something like betrayal. This is personal. You couldn't let her go, could you? His words hit like a punch. I glanced at Ethan, searching for a crack in his armor, but he was unreadable. Was this really about a merger? Or was it about Vanessa, about a past I knew nothing about? Ethan's jaw tightened, but he didn't take the bait. Personal or not. Richard, you've made your choices, and now you'll face the consequences. He turned to me, his voice softening. Lila, let's go. We're done here. But before we could move, Vanessa grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. You think you've won, she whispered, her face inches from mine. You're nothing but a prop. He'll use you and discard you. Her words echoed my own fears. But I yanked my arm free, my voice steady. Maybe, but at least I'm not the one lying to everyone I love. The room gasped. Vanessa's face contorted, and for a moment, I thought she might slap me. But Richard stepped between us, his voice low. Enough, Vanessa. Let's go. She glared at him, then at me, before storming out, her heels clicking like gunfire. Richard followed, his shoulders slumped. A man defeated. The guests dispersed, whispering furiously, their phones already buzzing with the night's drama. Ethan guided me to his car, his silence heavy. As we drove back to the city, I couldn't hold it in anymore. What was that? Ethan, I demanded. Was this about the merger? Or was it about her? He stared at the road, his hands tight on the wheel. Both, he admitted finally. Vanessa and I, we were together. Years ago. She chose Richard, and I thought I was over it. But when they started sabotaging my deal, it brought everything back. He glanced at me, his eyes raw. I didn't plan for you to get caught in the crossfire. Lila, I'm sorry. His apology felt genuine, but it didn't erase the sting of being used. You should have told me, I said. I deserved to know what I was walking into. He nodded, his voice quiet. You're right. But you were incredible tonight. You didn't just play the part, you owned it. I didn't know whether to feel proud or manipulated. As we pulled up to my apartment, he handed me an envelope. The money, he said, and a bonus. You earned it. I took it, but it felt heavy, like it carried the weight of the night. This isn't over, is it? I asked. He shook his head. Not yet. But you're out. Lila, you've done more than enough. As he drove away, I stood on the sidewalk, the envelope in my hand, wondering if I'd just escaped a fire or stepped into a bigger one. The envelope sat on my kitchen counter, unopened, like a bomb I was afraid to touch. $10,000, maybe more, could wipe out my debts, give me a fresh start. But as I stood in my tiny apartment, the memory of Vanessa's nails digging into my arm and Richard's broken expression haunted me. I'd walked away from Ethan's world, but it felt like his world wasn't done with me. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Tech mogul Ethan Caldwell's fake fiancée scandal rocks merger talks. My stomach dropped. The article had photos from the dinner in the red dress. Ethan's hand on mine. Vanessa's icy stare. It didn't name me, but the speculation was brutal. Who is the mystery woman? Is Caldwell's empire crumbling? I threw my phone down, my hand shaking. I was supposed to be invisible, not front page news. By noon, my coffee shop was buzzing not with customers, but with whispers. My coworkers kept glancing at me, and my boss, Maria, pulled me aside. Lila, what's going on? She asked, her eyes kind but worried. Some guy in a suit was here asking about you. Said he was a reporter. I mumbled an excuse about a misunderstanding, but the knot in my stomach tightened. Vanessa's warning echoed, you'll regret this. That evening, I got a text from an unknown number. Meet me at the pier. 8 p.m. We need to talk. No signature, but I knew it was Ethan. Against my better judgment, I went. The pier was quiet, the city lights reflecting on the water. Ethan was there, his usual polish replaced by a tired, almost haunted look. I didn't expect it to blow up like this, he said, his voice low. I'm sorry, Lila. Sorry doesn't fix this. I snapped. My life's a mess now. Reporters. Gossip, how am I supposed to go back to normal? He stepped closer, his eyes searching mine. You don't have to. Come work for me. I need someone I can trust. And you proved you're more than just a pretty face. I laughed. Bitter. Work for you. After you used me. No thanks. But even as I said it, I felt the pull of his offer. My barista job barely paid the bills, and the envelope on my counter was a reminder of how fast money could change things. Still, I wasn't ready to dive back into his chaos. What's your next move? I asked instead. Vanessa and Richard aren't done, are they? He shook his head. They're doubling down, trying to turn the board against me. But I've got something they don't witness. He pulled out a USB drive. Recordings of their calls. Proof of their embezzlement. If I play this right, they're finished. His eyes softened. But I need your help one last time. Testify with me. You saw their reaction at the dinner. It'll seal the deal. I wanted to say no, to walk away for good. But the memory of Vanessa's smugness, Richard's desperation, and the way they tried to ruin Ethan and melted a fire in me. What's in it for me? I asked, my voice steady. Ethan smiled, like he'd expected it. Name your price. I didn't want more money, not really. I wanted control, a way to make sure I wasn't just a pawn. If I do this, I said, I want the truth. All of it. No more games. He nodded, and for the first time, I felt like we were equals. The next day, I met Ethan at his lawyer's office, a sleek high-rise that screamed power. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Claire, laid out the plan. We'd present the evidence at a board meeting in 2 days. My role was simple: confirm what happened at the dinner, back up Ethan's claims. But as Claire walked us through the recordings, I heard Vanessa's voice, cold and calculated, plotting to frame Ethan for fraud. It wasn't just business, it was personal, vicious. I looked at Ethan, realizing how deep this went. You loved her, didn't you? I asked when Claire stepped out. He didn't deny it. Once, he said, but she chose power over me. And now she's paying for it. His words were hard, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of pain. As I left the office, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Back off, or you'll lose more than your job. My blood ran cold. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The threat on my phone burned into my mind. Back off, or you'll lose more than your job. I stood frozen on the sidewalk outside Ethan's lawyer's office. The city's noise, a dull roar around me. I thought I could walk away after the dinner. But Vanessa and Richard weren't just fighting Ethan, they were coming for me. I called Ethan, my voice shaking. Someone's threatening me, I said, forwarding the text. He was silent for a moment. Then his voice turned hard. Stay at your place. I'm sending security. Within an hour, a man in a black suit was stationed outside my apartment. His presence both reassuring and terrifying. I wasn't just in Ethan's world now, I was a target. The next day, Ethan picked me up himself, his face grim. It's Vanessa, he said as we drove to a safe house he'd arranged. A sleek condo overlooking the city. She's desperate. The board meeting's tomorrow, and she knows we've got her. He handed me a burner phone. Use this from now on. And don't go anywhere alone. I nodded, but the weight of it all was crushing. I wasn't just playing a part anymore, it was risking everything. At the safe house, Ethan showed me the full scope of his evidence, bank records, emails, and those damning recordings. Vanessa and Richard had been siphoning money from the merger for months, using shell companies to cover their tracks. This isn't just about revenge, Ethan said, his voice low. If they win, hundreds of employees lose their jobs. The merger's the only thing keeping my company afloat. I saw the stakes now, not just for him, but for everyone tied to his empire. It made me think of my own co-workers at the coffee shop, scraping by, hoping for better days. Okay, I said, I'm in. But if we do this, we do it right. No more surprises. He smiled. A real one this time. Deal. The board meeting was held in a glass-walled conference room, the city skyline looming behind us. Ethan stood at the head of the table, his presence commanding, while I sat beside him, trying to look like I belonged. Vanessa and Richard were there, their faces composed but their eyes betraying panic. The board, 12 men and women in sharp suits, watched us like hawks. Ethan presented the evidence methodically, his voice steady as he played the recordings. Vanessa's voice filled the room, cold and calculating, outlining their plan to frame Ethan. The board members shifted, some whispering, others stone-faced. When Ethan finished, he turned to me. Lila, tell them what you saw at the dinner. I took a breath, my heart pounding. Vanessa and Richard tried to discredit Ethan with forged documents. I said, my voice clear. They threatened me when I wouldn't back down. They're not just lying about the merger, they're lying about everything. I felt Vanessa's glare, but I didn't flinch. This was my moment, and I wasn't wasting it. Vanessa stood, her voice sharp. This is absurd. She's a hired actress. Nothing more. But the board wasn't buying it. One member, an older woman with steel gray hair, leaned forward. Ms. Hart, we've seen the evidence. It's compelling. Do you have anything to counter it? Vanessa faltered, her eyes darting to Richard, who looked like he wanted to disappear. We have our own proof, she stammered, but it was weak. Ethan seized the moment, projecting more documents onto the screen. Bank transfers, timestamps, signatures. The room went silent. Richard broke first. It's true, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. We took the money, but it wasn't supposed to go this far. The board erupted, voices overlapping. Vanessa's face went white, her hands trembling. Richard, shut up, she hissed, but it was too late. The truth was out. As security escorted them out, Vanessa shot me a look of pure hatred. This isn't over, she mouthed. I held her gaze, my heart racing but my resolve firm. I'd faced her down once. I could do it again. After the meeting, Ethan pulled me aside, his eyes bright with relief. You were incredible, he said. I couldn't have done this without you. For the first time, I believed him, not just his words, but the man behind them. But as we left the building, I couldn't shake the feeling that Vanessa's final threat was more than just words. The board meeting's aftermath felt like the calm after a storm, but I knew better than to trust it. Vanessa's final glare and her mouth threat, this isn't over, lingered like a shadow. As Ethan and I stepped into the elevator, the weight of the last few days crashed over me. I'd gone from pouring coffee to facing down corporate sharks, and I wasn't sure who I was anymore. Ethan drove me back to my apartment, the city lights blurring past us. You're free now, he said, his voice soft but serious. The merger's safe. Vanessa and Richard are done, and you've got your money. He paused, glancing at me. But if you ever want a real change, my offer stands. Work with me. You're tougher than most of the suits I know. I laughed, but it was shaky. I need to think about it, I said. The truth was, I didn't know what I wanted. The $10, 000 plus a $5, 000 bonus was enough to clear my debts and give me a cushion. But Ethan's world had shown me something else. I was capable of more than I'd ever imagined. Still, it came with the cost reporters, threats, and a life under a microscope. Back home, I opened the envelope, staring at the check. It felt like a lifeline, but also a reminder of how fast I'd been pulled into Ethan's chaos. My phone buzzed a news alert. Vanessa Hart and Richard Langston face charges in merger scandal. The article detailed their arrest, the evidence Ethan had presented, and the board's unanimous vote to protect the merger. My name wasn't mentioned, but I knew it was only a matter of time before someone dug deeper. The next day, I went back to the coffee shop, slipping into my apron like it could erase the last week. But everything felt different. My coworkers' glances, the customers' whisper sit was like I was wearing the red dress again. On display, Maria pulled me aside again. Lila, that reporter's back, she said, and someone left this for you. She handed me a note and signed, "You can't hide forever." My blood ran cold. I called Ethan, who was already on his way. When he arrived, his face was grim. "It's not Vanessa," he said, reading the note. "She's in custody, but she has people loyalists who'd do anything for her." He insisted I stay at the safe house again, but I refused. "I'm not running," I said. "This is my life. Ethan, I want it back." He nodded, respecting my choice, but he stationed security outside my building anyway. That night, I sat down and wrote out every detail of the dinner, the threats, the board meeting. Not for Ethan, not for the press, but for me. I needed to make sense of it, to reclaim the narrative. As I wrote, I realized something. I wasn't just a victim of their game. I'd fought back, and I'd won. Days turned into weeks, and the threats stopped. Vanessa and Richard's trial began, dominating headlines. But I stayed out of it. Ethan kept his word, keeping my name out of the press, and the reporters eventually moved on. One evening, he showed up at the coffee shop. No suit, just jeans and a hesitant smile. "I owe you a real coffee," he said. "No deals, no games. Just, thank you." We sat and talked, not about mergers or scandals, but about life, his regrets, my dreams. For the first time, he wasn't the untouchable mogul, and I wasn't the desperate barista. We were just two people, finding common ground in the wreckage of the storm. I never took Ethan's job offer, but I used the money to enroll in business school, determined to carve my own path. The red dress hung in my closet, a reminder of the night I stepped into a world I didn't belong in and walked out stronger. Vanessa and Richard's lies had tried to destroy us, but in the end, they only destroyed themselves. As I closed my notebook, the weight of the past lifted. I wasn't defined by one night, or by their threats. I was Lila, and I was just beginning.